I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. We continue again in Alma. We're reading about the sons of Mosiah and their missionary efforts among the Lamanites. This is the story of Ammon right now. We read the first half of chapter 19 in the last video, where Lamoni wakes up, praises God, and then the entire court is overcome with the Spirit. Ammon, the king, the queen, all the servants, except Abish. And then Abish goes around, it says house to house, telling the people what's going on. That's where we left it off. We're going to pick this up in verse 18 and finish the chapter. And they began to assemble themselves together unto the house of the king. And there came a multitude, and to their astonishment they beheld the king and the queen and their servants prostrate upon the earth. And they all lay there as though they were dead. And they also saw Ammon, and behold, he was a Nephite. And now the people began to murmur among themselves, some saying that it was a great evil that had come upon them, or upon the king and his house, because he had suffered that the Nephite should remain in the land. But others rebuked them, saying the king had brought this evil upon his house, because he slew his servants who had had their flocks scattered at the waters of Sebus. And they were also rebuked by those men who had stood at the waters of Sebus, and scattered the flocks which belonged to the king, for they were angry with Ammon because of the number which he had slain of their brethren at the waters of Sebus, while defending the flocks of the king. Now one of them, whose brother had been slain with the sword of Ammon, being exceedingly angry with Ammon, drew his sword, and went forth, that he might let it fall upon Ammon to slay him. And as he lifted the sword to smite him, behold, he fell dead. Now we see that Ammon could not be slain, for the Lord had said unto Mosiah his father, I will spare him, and it shall be unto him according to thy faith. Therefore Mosiah trusted him unto the Lord. And it came to pass that when the multitude beheld that the man had fallen dead, who lifted the sword to slay Ammon, fear came upon them all, and they durst not put forth their hands to touch him, or any of those who had fallen. And they began to marvel again among themselves what could be the cause of this great power, or what all these things could mean. And it came to pass that there were many among them who said that Ammon was the Great Spirit, and others said that he was sent by the Great Spirit, but others rebuked them all, saying that he was a monster, who had been sent from the Nephites to torment them. And there were some who said that Ammon was sent by the Great Spirit to afflict them because of their iniquities, and that it was the Great Spirit that had always attended the Nephites, who had ever delivered them out of their hands. And they said that it was this Great Spirit who had destroyed so many of their brethren the Lamanites. And thus the contentions began to be exceedingly sharp among them. And while they were thus contending, the woman servant who had caused the multitude to be gathered together came, and when she saw the contentions which was among the multitude, she was exceedingly sorrowful, even unto tears. And it came to pass that she went and took the queen by the hand, that perhaps she might raise her from the ground. And as soon as she touched her hand, she arose and stood upon her feet, and cried with a loud voice, saying, O blessed Jesus, who has saved me from an awful hell, O blessed God, have mercy on this people. And when she had said this, she clasped her hands, being filled with joy, speaking many words which were not understood. And when she had done this, she took the king, Lamoni, by the hand, and behold, he arose and stood upon his feet. And he immediately, seeing the contention among his people, went forth and began to rebuke them, and to teach them the words which he had heard from the mouth of Ammon. And as many as heard his words believed, and were converted unto the Lord. But there were many among them who would not hear his words, therefore they went their way. And it came to pass that when Ammon arose, he also administered unto them, and also did all the servants of Lamoni. And they did all declare unto the people the selfsame thing, that their hearts had been changed, that they had no more desire to do evil. And behold, many did declare unto the people that they had seen angels, and had conversed with them, and thus they had told them things of God, and of his righteousness. And it came to pass that there were many that did believe on their words, and as many as did believe were baptized, and they became a righteous people, and they did establish a church among them. And thus the work of the Lord did commence among the Lamanites. Thus the Lord did begin to pour out his Spirit upon them, and we see that his arm is extended to all people who will repent and believe on his name. There's a lot of fun contentions going on in this. We have, some say he's the Great Spirit. Well, at first, we have the first contentions. The Great Spirit killed them all because they welcomed a Nephite. No. The Great Spirit killed them all because the king was killing his servants. The king was killing his servants for losing the sheep, and the men who were stealing the sheep can't be that, because if that was true, then we'd be at fault too, because our actions is what led the king to kill him. And so in order to justify ourselves, we have to deny that. We have to say, no, that can't be what's going on. I like that. And it says, the brother of the one who was slain by the sword. Remember, Ammon only slew one man with the sword, and that was the leader of these marauders. So his brother goes up to kill Ammon. The other thing to note there is, Ammon is saved. God slays the guy, so don't even think about it. But it's not because of Ammon's faith that he is preserved. Even when he was defending the flocks and said that they couldn't hit him with their slings, Ammon was not preserved because of his own faith. He was preserved because of the faith of his father. Mosiah had secured from God the promise that none of his sons would die among the Lamanites. And because God made that promise with Mosiah, none of his sons would die among the Lamanites. It's the same thing that God made a promise to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. And because he made a promise to them, Israel will always have the birthright. It's not because Israel was righteous, it's because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were righteous. Very similar thing there. But we have all these, after the man dies, of course, we have the contention there of, is he the Great Spirit? Is he sent by the Great Spirit? He's a monster sent by the Nephites. All these contentions going on. There's a lot of arguing. Abish gets back. And she wanted this to be a great awakening. And she just sees everybody fighting. But then, of course, she touches the queen's hand. The queen rises. The king rises. They all come up preaching the same doctrine. Now, a lot of people listen and are converted. All those who are willing to listen become converted. Those who are not willing to listen simply go home. They say, the king's well, crisis is over, we don't need to worry about it, and I don't want to hear it. So they go home. Those are the ones who are not converted. It's very interesting. We will leave it there, and we are actually going to be skipping chapter 20 and reading a little bit in 21 next. So I will see you there.